Hello and welcome to the Slam podcast series.
I'm Elle.
And I'm John.
And we're excited to have you here to join us for another episode where we speak to students all about their experiences and how they navigate student life.
And here at Slam, obviously the mission's clear. It's all about stories for students, by students. And we're interested to hear their stories and tales, no matter what the background or where they're from.
Exactly. So we've got a diverse range of guests, ranging from musician students who balance their passions for music with their academic commitments, and an all-girls social group which looks to foster community.
I'm really excited to hear all their stories, trials and tribulations, and going forward in their respective careers. So without further ado, let's kick it off. Next up, we've got Pete, who will be chatting with Alex Heaton, who's a Korn tribute drummer and performer.
And he had a terrifying experience at Rockstock Festival in 2019, and he'll be telling us all about that.
Okay, today we're joined by Alex Heaton, who is an ex-student at SAE. Alex suffered an unexpected stroke at the age of 28 when performing at a festival in Stockport. Welcome, Alex.
Hello.
Tell us what happened.
So I was playing drums, felt a bit weird, and then just passed out my drums and went to hospital, and they were like, "You've had a stroke." I was like, "Fuck."
Oh my.
Yeah, it's a bit like, whoa. So it turns out that I tore an artery in my neck, headbanging, and then obviously it clotted, and then I had the stroke. I was like,
what was the reaction from your bandmates and from the crowd?
well, like halfway through the song, they turned around like, "Why is he playing with one arm?"
You continued to play?
Yeah, I finished the song.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was only my left side that was affected. So like stick went down, I was like, ooh. And they were like, "Why are you playing with one arm?" And I'm like, "I can't fucking see out my eye."
You thought it was like a Def Leppard tribute or
Yeah,
something?
exactly, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I changed tribute bands at that point. And they were like, and at the end of the song, when I clapped on my drums, the singer come over and was like, "Paramedics, we need a paramedic."
What did you think was happening?
I don't really know.
Did
Didn't
you
really
just
have a
feel
clue.
faint, or how did it feel?
It felt like I was like on a, like my vision went like I was on a ship, like all wavy, like
Yeah,
I was losing balance in my head.
right.
I was like, oh, I was a little bit hungover, so I thought maybe I just need a banana and some water. So my plan in my head was to finish the song, go in my bag, have a banana, have some water, and then I'll be okay.
But it wasn't.
But it wasn't, no. I wish it was.
Tell us what happened next then. What happened when the paramedics came?
They come on stage and they were like, they thought I was having a mini stroke or something. I can't remember what.
TIA?
Yeah, TIA. They thought
Yeah.
I was having a TIA. They were like, "We'll get an ambulance to come from Stockport Hospital, Stepping Hill, and then we'll go from there." They stretchered me off the stage. It's like, oh, because I couldn't even sit up on my own because everything was numb on my left side. Like my left arse cheek was numb, so it's like, oh, it's like there's nothing there. Then I went to hospital and they were like, "You're having a stroke. Like you're literally having one right now." So I can't remember what it's called. It's like thrombolized me or something like that.
Yeah,
Some machine that pushes this weird chemical through your body or something,
yeah.
and it gets rid of clots. So they gave me that, and then I can't really remember. Just it's like a weird dream for like a few weeks.
Were you in hospital for a few weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. So I was in Stepping Hill for, I think it was 7 days. Then I went home and was home for a few days, and then I ended up back in Arrow Park. Because I was just pushing myself too hard to move again and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got like exhausted, and I thought I was having another stroke.
Oh my gosh.
So then I was in Arrow Park for another few days.
So
Back home.
how are you now? Because this was, what was this, 5 years ago?
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Just before my 29th birthday.
Oh,
Like a couple of weeks before my 29th.
not the best present for you.
No, it's rubbish. I'm still like numb on my left side, and it affects me like different days as well.
So you're still drumming?
Yeah, I'm still drumming, back on drums again now.
Yeah.
Just I've got to alter the way I play. I can't headbang anymore
Yeah.
at all. I don't want to.
Was that doctor's orders?
Yeah, that was it. That's my orders as well. It's like, I'm not having another stroke. I don't want another one. It was horrible. And there's certain songs that I can't play anymore because my left arm just doesn't work properly.
What, fast enough or hard enough?
Yeah, fast enough, and like the dynamics of my left side it's not as good.
Oh, okay.
Which is really frustrating, but I can't do anything about that.
But you're pretty lucky, right?
Yeah, super lucky.
Yeah,
I haven't got aphasia, which I really didn't want. And
Just explain what that is.
It's where your speech gets affected.
Right.
It's like the main thing. Like when you think of stroke, you think of like
When you're half sideways,
yeah, and then
and
you
that.
think of like the speech being really slow. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't happen because that would have been not nice for me being so young as well.
Yeah, yeah. Like 28's pretty young for a stroke.
Yeah, it is. But then when I was in hospital, they said like it is quite common
Really?
for young people to have strokes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not just an old person thing. It's like a broad spectrum of ages that have strokes.
And what causes strokes in young people? Is there anything that can prevent it?
I think they
apart
said the
from
main
headbanging?
one was drugs.
Right.
They were swabbing me in hospital. They're
Oh,
like,
right.
"You on any drugs?" I was like,
Right.
"No." They're like,
Yeah.
"We're just gonna give you a swab anyway." I was like, "I'm not on drugs."
Oh, man.
So cocaine, dissections as well. Apparently happens to weightlifters as well.
Oh, really?
Like the pressure of
Oh,
lifting.
okay. Oh, wow. So you said you're still drumming.
Yeah.
Now, you were a student here many years ago.
Yeah.
And just tell us about which course you were studying.
I did the audio production course.
And how'd you find that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I wouldn't have done the course if I didn't have the stroke.
Oh,
Because
right,
I was thinking of coming to SAE in 2017, but I was like, I can't just quit my job and go to uni as an adult. That's stupid. And then I had the stroke, and I was like, oh, I can do that. So I did it, and yeah, loved it. It was hard.
Yeah.
But,
What did you get out of the course?
as in my quals or
Yeah, well, I don't mean what were your
first
qualifications.
class,
I mean,
baby.
yeah, that's amazing. Well done. Congratulations. But I mean, like, what was it? Collaboration, or the tutors, or your peers, or all of those sort of things?
It was like all of those things, really.
Yeah.
Like my classmates, we got along with all my classmates. Lecturers got along with all lecturers, and the hands-on experience on the consoles and stuff. That's what I was really after, because anyone could read a console instruction book or manual, but it's really hard to put that to practical use unless you've actually done it. So that was cool. And then a lot of the projects I've worked on after uni have been directly from projects I did in uni.
Brilliant.
So that was really good.
And you're still working with some of the staff here now, you were saying earlier?
Yeah. So Chris, CST, it's like a mate of mine, and
Yeah.
I still come in and do some sessions on the desks and stuff, and
Brilliant.
yeah, I love it.
And you're in several bands. Just talk us through
Yeah.
that and what you sort of what your plans have been with them, what you've been up to.
So they're tribute bands. There's a 9 Inch Nails tribute, a Korn tribute. They're the ones I had the stroke with. A Marilyn Manson tribute and a Deftones tribute.
Wow.
And we're sort of the same people. And we do like costume changes and come back on stage.
That's a
Costume
genius idea.
But it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But it's fun because I honestly, at one point, I didn't think I'd get back to drums
Wow.
because like my arm was just like a mess.
Yeah.
Sort of fucked up. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Just talk us through some of the highlights that you've had touring. You've been recently come back from Europe.
Yeah, so it's probably my favourite show I've done. It's at least up there anyway. It was in, what was the place called? I had like a silly name, Billy something in France, just outside Lille. And it was Halloween festival. It was just amazing. The way we played, the way the crowd were, and the way they treat you out in Europe as well. It's just better.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And which band did you go as, or did you do
The Marilyn Manson one this time, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Which one's the most popular?
It's hard to say, really. Korn, because they're pretty big. Marilyn Manson's really big. Depends, really. It really depends where we are and if it's our own show or if it's a festival. Sometimes it doesn't go down well.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like amazing.
Yeah.
Just depends.
And what are your plans for the future?
I want to be a music producer and a mix engineer.
Right.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do.
And how's that going?
It's slow because obviously I've come out of uni 2 years ago now, and no one knows who I am. And my work's getting better and better and better each time I work with a band. I think it's just going to take time and persistence.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've got to be good as well. Obviously, I can't just wait for ages and be shite.
Yeah.
I've got to be good as well. So practice, persistence, all time.
Well, good luck.
Thanks very much.
Have you got any, just final question, Alex, have you got any advice for anyone who maybe would have been in your shoes sort of like 10 years ago that you would give to any sort of aspiring musicians or creatives, really?
Just do shit you want to do, basically. Don't be like, oh, I shouldn't really do that.
Just try it.
Yeah, just try it and see what happens, and usually it'll work out.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us, Alex. Really appreciate you taking your time out. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hello. Today we're thrilled to welcome Steph, one of the co-founders of Girls on the Go Liverpool, an empowering community that brings women together through social, fitness and creative events. This community has made a real difference in helping women connect, stay active and find support across Liverpool. We're excited to dive into the story behind Girls on the Go and learn more about what it takes to build a community like this. So welcome to the podcast. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Excited to find out more about Girls on the Go.
Yes.
So first of all, Steph, what inspired you to start Girls on the Go and create that space for women to connect?
So I created it with my two friends, Martin and Caitlin. It initially started as a running club about a year ago. And I mean, my personal reason for being involved is I came to uni from France. So I'm French and I really struggled to like make friends at uni. I really didn't associate with like the drinking culture. I found it really hard to make friends if it wasn't like clubbing or drinking. So I just think it's really important to create a space that's not around drinking and clubbing and just offering a more wholesome aspect to
100.
making friends.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
it's such a difficult issue, especially like once you graduate from university as well, just making friends is so hard. So
Yeah, like that awkward sort of adult space where like you don't know how to meet people. Like if you say at your workplace like you don't really connect with people, it can feel really a bit isolating.
yeah, I think especially so many of us work from home now.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
like I used to when we started Girls on the Go, I worked at home and didn't talk to anyone, and everyone was like 20 years older than me, and I just had no one to like connect with. So I just think it's really important to facilitate that space for people.
I agree. So how do you decide on what? Obviously, you do like a big range of events. So how do you decide on what you're going to offer?
We try to offer like a huge range of like prices, so that does kind of dictate like what we do in terms of events. So we try and offer like one or two events a week that's completely free because, you know, making friends shouldn't have to come with a price, basically. And we try and do like a mix of fitness, social, and like creative workshops. So we do try to ask the community as much as we can of what they actually want.
Yeah.
And that kind of dictates again what we do. So like for October we did pumpkin painting because it was like themed.
Yeah.
And we're kind of doing that for Christmas as well. Like, what do they want? And we just kind of base our events off of what the girls want, because there's no point us putting on an event that no one wants to come to. So
So do you get like a lot of people returning to the events?
yeah. So on the ticketing platform that we can see, we have like at least 40 to 50% returning customers for every event. So yeah, it's amazing.
It's really nice. And a lot of like, do you get like a lot of new people each event? And
Yeah.
things like that? Okay.
I think it depends on the event. So like
of course.
bingos, lots of people will come back to those because they've been to one and they want to win.
Of course.
But if you've done like a wine glass painting, you're not going to go the next week to do one. So
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. So what's been one of the most rewarding moments since you started Girls on the Go?
We did a Galentine's ball and that had like 700 people there. And I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got was that it was the first time women felt safe on a night out, and they didn't have to cover their drinks, and they could leave their drinks, and they just weren't scared of being spiked and attacked. And I think that was, obviously I love helping women make friends, but I think it was just so important to like, wow, we've created that space where they, for once, aren't worried about those things. So
I think that is so important, because when you create like women only spaces, there's often some pushback where it's like, well, this is excluding men. But I don't think they quite appreciate how important it is. It's just like a basic right for a woman to feel safe. And so often, like if you go to like a bar or a club, or even just to like the gym, even sometimes, you don't always feel safe, which is the sad reality. So I think what you guys do in terms of creating that safe, secure space is just so important, and that must be just so rewarding.
Yeah, I think especially as, I mean, every single woman that I know has had some sort of negative experience.
Yes.
And I just think it's like important to shed light on that, and also just create a space. Like, I love men, love them so much. Like, one of our co-founders is a man.
Exactly.
Not a problem at all. I just think too many of us have had a negative experience, so it's important to have that space.
Agreed. So how would you say Girls on the Go helps with the feeling of loneliness in younger women and young women?
I think it helps because we create a space that's specifically for making friends. I think other events, you can't, like a concert or whatever, I think you can make friends there, but it might be accidental or like a bonus. But our events are specifically, everyone who goes is going with the intention to feel less lonely and to make friends. So I think just having that space that's like purely dedicated to that is really important and makes a difference.
Definitely. And do you have like icebreakers and sort of?
Yeah, so we have different sorts of events. So we've started doing specific solo events where every single person comes by themselves. Cool. We've also started doing speed friending. So instead of speed dating, it's speed friending. And those are really, really popular because we like provide icebreakers. We really help them try and connect a bit more. And it's just a bit easier for them to make friends.
Yeah, cool. So what impact, so I know you said it started originally as a running club. So what impact would you say like these fitness activities have had on like members' mental health? If you've had like any positive feedback or anything like that?
I think just one of them is they get to go outdoors more often. I mean, we just talked about this on our social media, but in winter, women lose 36 days because of so many hours that they feel that they can't go outside because it gets dark at like 4 p.m. So their lives are completely restricted. They can't go on a run in the evening because it gets dark. And by creating a space where we're still going for runs, but as a group outside, we feel safer. And, you know, I think it does help with your mental health, especially like so many of us experience seasonal depression when it's in winter, and at least going outside and moving your body and meeting new people and not feeling restricted as much it really does impact people and help a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you think like, I guess for me over the winter, definitely like you just kind of count those months out. Be like, well, I'm probably not going to feel great because I don't feel like as safe going out.
I just
in the
do
evenings.
nothing.
Like if I'm going out, it'll be going out like drinking or like to bars and stuff, and that's not the only reason I want to be going outside at night. So
exactly.
So what steps do you take to ensure that the community at Girls on the Go is welcoming and inclusive for all members, so regardless of like their background or interests?
So we're open to anyone who identifies as a woman. So it's definitely not just cis women. We've had lots of transgender women come along, and they've said that they feel completely welcomed. And we like emphasize that on our social media, that like if you're not inclusive of these people who aren't just cis women, don't come along, because like that's not what this community is about. I think we also try and use our platform as much as possible to speak about issues that are like important to women. So, you know, when all of the riots were going on in Liverpool, I think it was really important to us to be like, this is unacceptable. Like Islamophobia, unacceptable. Homophobia, unacceptable. And then I think by like reinforcing that in our community, I mean, we lost loads of followers during that but I was like, goodbye then.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Like, you
and I
don't
just
want
think
them
I don't
in
want
the
them.
space, yeah.
Like, so I just think it's really, we make our morals and our points of view very explicitly clear so that
Yeah.
people know that if they're coming to this community, that's what they should expect. And any sort of hate or slander to anyone is not accepted.
Good. That sounds like, I don't know, I think some people are sort of like, oh, there's too many rules these days, like you
Oh.
can't say anything, but it's just common
don't be
decency, and
horrible.
yeah, exactly. And it's, why should you care so much about what someone else is doing or what they believe,
Yeah.
or if everyone's just coming here for the same reason, which is to make friends. And yeah, so that's really positive.
Yeah.
Maybe linking onto that then, what challenges have you faced when you're sort of building and maintaining the community?
I think making sure that everyone's happy. I think it's difficult because obviously if you do an event with 700 people, not every single person's going to be 100% happy.
Yeah.
But always trying to take in feedback. So we always send feedback forms afterwards to try and ask how we can improve. I try not to take it personally. Like we've only been doing this for a year. We're going to make mistakes and we're going to try and learn. But I think if you don't ask for feedback and you don't change things, then you're never going to grow. So yeah, I think one of the challenges is sometimes hearing that you haven't done the best job, but then we're going to try and improve it for next time.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Because you always want to be like especially when it's something that's public facing, you always kind of want to be in control of that feedback, and you don't just want to assume that everything's fine.
No, like they're going to tell me to my face that it's great, but I want them to be honest and be like, no, we'd like this. And I think another of the challenges, like I said, is when we make these like statements that are like polarizing, we do get a lot of hate from them. But if I stick to my beliefs and I'm just like,
exactly,
that's unacceptable. So
yeah,
if you want to hate me, that's fine.
So what are there any of the upcoming events that you're especially excited about?
Yes, we're going to do a Winter Wonderland ball.
Nice.
And we announced that yesterday, and that's going to be really fun. We're going to have like an 8-foot tree, and I've just bought so many trees. It's ridiculous. All of our Christmassy themed ones are really important to us. We're also doing the Santa Dash. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Okay.
But there's like thousands of people running in Santa costumes.
Oh, cool.
And we're doing like a charity event for that. So yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. Christmas is a fun period of time.
And did you say you've just launched in
Birmingham and Manchester?
Yes, nice.
Yeah.
So you like carrying on the Christmas stuff all?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Very busy, but exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. But yeah, we launched in August and it's going well there.
Oh, cool.
So just a lot to balance, but fun.
It'll be fine. So what advice would you give to someone who was trying to create like a similar sort of community focused project, given your like year of experience with it?
I'd say you have to be consistent. Like I mean, for the past year, I've posted every single day on Instagram.
Yeah.
I posted every single day on TikTok, and it sounds like a lot, but if you like get into the routine, like it's easier. You just have to keep it consistent, because if you don't keep it consistent, like people are going to lose trust in you and not want to come anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
I also just think like try and fix a problem that like personally might affect you. So like I have gone through a period of time where I have no friends. So like even if we're going through even if it gets really busy, that keeps me motivated, because I don't want people to feel like that. So it drives you. I wouldn't do it for money because you don't get paid a lot. So yeah, I would do it like for passion.
Yeah, definitely. And lastly, so where do you see Girls on the Go going over the next few years? Like what sort of plans have you got? If you've got secret plans, that's fine.
No, not really secret plans. We want to expand all across the UK. Cool. We've actually just tried to buy the EU trademark as well, so that's going. But yeah, all across the UK. I think hopefully we're going to be in every major city in the next 10 years. Nice. And then hopefully the world. So yeah, it'd be really cool.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Of course.
It's been really nice speaking to you, and it's just a really cool thing. Like,
Thank
I'd
you.
heard of it before today, and I just think it's so important. Like, I know we emphasised during the interview, but just for women to have that space, anyone who identifies as a woman to be able to be involved in that space and just to feel safe. And yeah, I can't explain how good that is. So it's
Thank you
really
very
nice
much.
to speak to you. Yeah, so thank you very
Thanks
much
for having me.
And now we're back with Pete as he chats with Tom from SAE.
Right, and next we're joined by Thomas Armstrong, who works at SAE Liverpool. What's your job title, Thomas?
So I am official title campus recruitment officer, and yeah, I've been working at SAE for the last 6 months, specifically at the Liverpool campus.
And how have those 6 months been?
Good. I joined right in the middle of a recruitment cycle, so it was kind of going in, jumping straight into the deep end, but I did find it very beneficial because, there was aspects of the job and the role that I had to kind of pick up quickly in order to make sure I was like up to speed with everything. And yeah, I've loved it so far. Staff's great, students are great, the facilities are great. Sounds like I'm selling it right now. But
So you're a creative outside of SAE as well,
Yep.
involved in music. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
yeah, so during my time at university, me and a friend started a kind of like a folk bossa nova type duo, essentially. And then that thing COVID happened, and yeah, eventually it became a solo project going by the name of Anemona, which is the word anemone in Spanish. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Started getting a couple of gigs. I ended up having a residency every Friday night at a nice bar in town. And yeah, I think since I've had kids, though, it's very hard for me to try and maintain that musical career, shall we say.
Yeah.
But yeah, since I've started at SAE, every now and then I'll try and get myself into one of the studios and get some of my things recorded and, collaborate with some of the other staff members who are also musicians.
Brilliant. And what have been the highlights so far of your career at SAE?
There's been quite a few, to be honest. I'm quite lucky that in 6 months there's been quite a varied contrast in terms of highlights. So one of the first ones was definitely I started on the Monday, and by the Friday I got like one of the VIP wristbands for the Sound City Music Festival in town. And I thought, wow, like, am I going to get this every week? This kind of treatment.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that was cool. And then quite recently, I've had a couple trips down to London to have a look at some of the other campuses and also the ICMP campuses, obviously. So yeah, there's a lot of things in the pipeline coming up, and yeah, I'd say kind of like the traveling aspect has been a really good highlight because I haven't had a job prior to this where I've had the ability to be so kind of like flexible in terms of traveling, and sometimes there's an overnight stay, which is kind of nice because I don't get woken up by any kids.
There's a recurring theme here, mate.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Would you give any advice to anyone who is thinking about maybe starting at SAE, what they should look at and what they should think about maybe?
Yeah, so definitely if you're within the creative media space already, then it's definitely worth checking out, obviously, website, looking into the different types of courses we offer and the modules and everything that follows. If there's also an opportunity for you to come down to an open day, that always seems to go down very well. I've noticed that people that come to students that come to open days and join in some of like the online virtual workshops, when they do end up starting with us, they have like a pretty good idea of how things run. And yeah, I just kind of say keep producing content, whether you're a musician, a content creator, a filmmaker, whatever it is, keep practicing, because even when you do decide to join SAE, it's always good to make sure that you're kind of keeping yourself involved in whatever project it may be, whether it's academic or something like recreational, some sort of passion project. Because one of the things that I took from when I graduated from university was I felt like I didn't take advantage of the facilities enough. And personally, when I came to work for SAE, I was really impressed by how accessible all the facilities are for students. You know, like for example, audio students can book out the recording studios, and even if you're not an audio student, you can still, you know, collaborate with an audio production student and use the studios in that way. So yeah, I'd say make the most of it. Obviously, no one wants to be 24/7 on campus all the time. Everyone's got a social life to live as well, but definitely make sure that you're using all the facilities when you can, because once you're in the outside world,
Gets expensive, doesn't it?
it gets it gets expensive. Exactly, it gets expensive, and hindsight's a beautiful but also terrible thing.
Mhm.
Because you realize that, you know, these studios aren't cheap. This equipment isn't cheap.
Now you've become a bit of a face of SAE on
Yeah.
social medias. People might recognise you.
Yeah.
What are you getting any attention from anyone about that, or any flack from fellow staff members or
Well,
family members?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of my job, I'm naturally very sociable, and this is a job where I'm finally allowed to kind of dress how I want. There's not a specific uniform. I try and dress somewhat appropriately, but also show off a bit of my creativity, like these red
Love
boots
the
that
boots.
I've got on.
Love the boots.
So yeah, um, I like to get involved with like any marketing things, any of the TikToks where people might recognize me from.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of something fun to do. It kind of breaks up my work day as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, thanks for joining us, Tom. Really appreciate
no
that.
problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank
It's been great.
Our first guest today is multi-talented student and up-and-coming rock artist Sophie Eakins. Welcome to the show, Sophie.
Hello, John. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you down. So obviously, seeing you around the uni and seeing you sort of doing some recordings as well. How have you found sort of your beginnings in the university and sort of managing your student life as well as sort of your recording, your music career?
I think I've balanced it quite well so far. I've actually found that enrolling in the university was probably one of the most wise decisions I could have made for my musical career due to the nature of SAE and the fact that all of the courses, it's kind of like an ecosystem in the sense where I have brought my band in to record here with the audio students, and you know, I've worked with the film students, and there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration and networking. So I find that the two lives kind of merge into one, education and career, because obviously music is my career, so it all works together very nicely, and it was definitely a wise decision for me to come here, and I find it quite easy to work between the two.
Yeah, to sort of balance the two worlds kind of thing, because a lot of people I know can sort of struggle sometimes.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to sort of students who are sort of just coming into their sort of uni life and the sort of music, or if they've got maybe film on the side? Or
I would say that definitely be organised with your time, and whatever you're doing, apply yourself to it as fully as you can. So don't come to uni with things on the side and then think that you need to fully apply yourself to uni and forget about your side project. You need to be able to find the time for both of those things respectively, and if you can, find a way to merge them into one, but definitely being organised with your time and prioritising your well-being will help you do that, because if you don't have a clear mind, you're not going to really be able to have a clear and organised life.
no, that's really good advice, because I guess it is quite hard to sort of constantly be in one world, and then you want to do well in that, but then other parts of your other student life or your music worlds get neglected, and then you'll sort of dip back into that.
Yeah, I actually have a few years ago I bought this big whiteboard from Wilkinson's, which Wilkinson's isn't a thing anymore, unfortunately, but I put this on my wall and I have a whiteboard pen with it, and what I do is that's how I keep my life organised and in check. I have multiple goals in my life, and some of them are completely different from one another. And in order to stay on progress with them things, I kind of will have a checklist, and I'll say this week I'm going to get this done. And this day I'm going to get this done, and I kind of tick it off. So I'd say definitely investing in a good whiteboard or perhaps a weekly planner would be good for people starting university if they have other projects going on as well.
Yeah, just keep it sort of like simple, but keep on sort of chugging away, and don't overwhelm yourself with too many different things.
Yeah, and as always, the main priority should be your well-being, because that's where it all comes from. So if you're not happy within yourself, and if you're not peaceful in the mind, you're not going to be able to execute anything really to the best of your ability. So make that your priority, and always, first and foremost, make time for yourself, and then the rest will come quite naturally.
Yeah, I like the fact that you've looked at that angle, because I know obviously a lot of people sort of in the sort of music world sort of have said maybe they felt overwhelmed or sort of pressured into sort of doing things. How have you found it sort of being, not just as a musician, being a sort of creative? Because I know obviously you're quite present on sort of social media and YouTube. How do you balance those, and how do you still stay creative in both worlds, do you find?
I find it incredibly difficult, and I still struggle with it a lot to this day. Balancing social media and the constant craving for content with trying to be a human being is incredibly difficult, because I can't just sit down anymore and play guitar. I have to set my phone up and put the light on and record it and post it and come up with a caption and write all the hashtags and tag the companies that I'm using, and it's all very mentally draining. It's dehumanizing, and I don't like it, but it's something that you've kind of got to do. I've come to accept that that's the world that we live in, and that's the way the music industry is now. It's all social media and likes and followers, and yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is something that if you're an aspiring musician, you need to understand social media. You need to understand how to record a good video, how to get a good angle, how to get good lighting, how to get good audio, and you need to be able to balance that with your life.
So are there any people that can either help support you with that, or that do support you with it, or?
I would say I'm very independent. It's not that I don't want help, it's more just I'm a bit of I'm not a control freak, but I like to isolate myself, because I feel as though if you want something done properly, you just need to get it done yourself. I have a vision in my mind, and I don't think anyone else could execute that vision.
Yeah, because you obviously clearly like hyper focused on it, and I guess other people adding their little bits might be good, but you feel it might sort of deter from what you actually want to sort of create.
Yeah, I just want to get it done and as quickly as possible, and I do think that one of my learning curves as a person and as a musician is I need to work with other people better. I'll be vulnerable and admit that.
No, well, I mean, it's good to be honest, you know what I mean? And do you think that's going to be one of your main focuses, say maybe in 2025, maybe to collaborate? Is there any people you've seen, maybe the gigs you've played, that you thought, yeah, you'd like to work with, or?
Yeah, I'm currently speaking to a girl called Kira. I've recently connected with her on Instagram. She's a brilliant guitarist, and she's into all the same music as me. Brilliant singer, and we're going to meet up and collaborate. And it's funny because she's got a band, but she's got no band members at the moment, and I've got a band, but I've got no band members at the moment. So I'm going to try and push for a bit of a collaboration there. But as someone who's been independent for most, if not my entire career so far, in terms of songwriting, obviously I play bass for another band, but my songwriting ability is funneled straight into my main project, which is Red Coven, and I've been the sole songwriter of that, apart from my old drummer Jack, who co-written some songs with me, but unfortunately he had to move back to the States this year, which is why I've got no band members now. But he was really the only person that I've co-written with. We worked really well together, but I am hoping to rekindle that songwriting collaboration with this Kira that I've recently connected with on social media. And I hope that it can not only help me to grow as a musician, but I hope that we can get some good songs out of it.
Yeah, and I think also it's just good for the scene as a whole, because I think it's good to see sort of people collaborating with other people and seeing where it can go. Because I know obviously there's been some good sort of acts over the years where you've seen them collaborate and new things have come out or new bands have come out, rather than maybe just staying in your sort of pocket. And then it gives you an opportunity to learn from her and she can learn from you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And would you say there's anything that you have learned over the past sort of few years that you have been gigging that you give advice to maybe new musicians?
Yes. Network. Go to the gigs. Talk to people. Be nice. Don't talk behind people's back. They will find out.
Because Liverpool is quite a small
yeah,
sort of scene, isn't it?
The gossiping is rife, but yeah, be nice, network, go to the gigs, immerse yourself in the music scene, learn how to take a good video, invest in good equipment if you can, but remember that it's not necessary. I'm not someone who is financially supported in any way. I've always been completely independent financially. Because of that, for the first 6 years as a musician, everything I had was under £100, and I still made it work. I didn't have any lessons, and I did that. I made it work, and I think I'm quite good on my instruments now, despite not having that support.
So was that just sort of like other instruments you found maybe lying around the house, or like borrowed from a friend, or?
So my first instrument was actually my sister's, so that was kind of stole that from her.
Yeah.
That was very cheap. She got that for Christmas as like a beginner guitar. You're never going to spend a lot of money on your beginner guitar because you don't know if you're going to stick to it or not. But then I think a Christmas later, I got my own electric guitar, which was actually, I think it was over 100 quid. I think it was about 150. And that was like a Epiphone Les Paul. And then when I turned 18, I found out about child trust funds, where the government will actually, if you're born between certain years, the government will put money into a child trust fund for you, which I didn't know. I found out I had 500 quid in mine. Thank you, government. And I bought myself a PRS SE Mira with that, which is the red and black guitar that you'll see me using.
Would you mention about that? To be honest, I wasn't even really aware that like that was a thing. And I can imagine probably a lot of people watching this and listening to it are probably maybe not. How did you find out about it? And was there anything you had to apply for to get it, or?
I honestly saw it on Facebook. It was like, if you're born between 2001 and 2007, you might have money in the bank. There's a website that you can go on. Type into Google Child Trust Fund and a website will come up. I think you need your name, and I think you need your what's it called? National insurance number.
Yeah.
And I think it should tell you, and they just put it in your bank. So.
Because I mean, like several £100, that could really make the difference if someone was looking to maybe record or get their first instrument, or that's really handy to know that, because I think definitely sort of growing up, I don't know whether that was available to me, and I was just a bit ignorant to it, but that's really helpful.
There's probably a lot of young people who have no clue, and that they could really do with that money. So yeah, and if I wouldn't have been able to get that guitar if it wasn't for that. And it's sad because so many talents go to waste because they don't have the money to harness that ability. But I'll repeat, you don't need a lot of money to learn an instrument. If you're determined enough, you will do it.
Yeah, I guess it's having the sort of passion and the sort of direction that you want to go in.
There's plenty of famous, successful musicians, and if you look at their interviews, they'll say the exact same thing, that they started off on like a £20 guitar, and yeah, that's all you need to know.
What sort of artists, when you were sort of growing up, was it that sort of maybe created the spark to sort of start not just learning but writing your own songs as well?
I started playing when I was 12. My sister was a musician, so she kind of got me into it. She was always playing all sorts of different music. She's got a very broad range of music taste, so sometimes she'd have on heavy metal, sometimes it would be not heavy metal, but a lot of different music. So I started off by listening to the same stuff she was listening to, which was like Bring Me the Horizon and stuff, when I was like 13. I started playing on her guitar. She taught me my first 3 chords, and then the rest was YouTube. And then as I got into my middle teen years, I was really into Nirvana, and then Muse as well. Now that I'm a bit older, I'm really into my older stuff, like 70s and 80s. I'd say that Led Zeppelin are probably my favourite band at the moment. Yeah.
So is that more sort of the direction you may be leaning in for future songs, or?
Well, I'm a bit perplexed on that because with the songs that I've had released with Red Coven, I've had people say, like, you've got a really good sound, but I can hear in your newer songs that you're kind of steering away from that sound. Don't steer away from that sound. You've got a really good sound.
Like stay in your niche kind of thing, or stay in your lane? But...
so, because I take a lot of influence from Royal Blood. I forgot to say that. Royal Blood are a huge influence for my songwriting. It's just heavy hitting riffs and stuff.
But even they've sort of like developed their sort of sound. I wouldn't say maybe like disco, but...
They've gone poppy.
Yeah, and they've sort of changed. They've brought in sort of other instruments, other dynamics, because obviously I know there's only 2, but obviously they've got like a bit more keyboards, or there's like synths and stuff creeping in there.
Yeah. So I've kind of had people say, like, you've got a good sound, don't go more towards the older stuff, keep with the modern stuff, because, you know, you want to be modern. But then I'm like, oh, I don't know. But in all honesty, I've had a big writer's block recently anyway, so I'm not, I think I'm in a weird place musically where I'm not quite sure what I want to do next.
So do you feel a little bit pulled maybe if people are saying those things? Is that just purely online, or is that other people that come to the gigs, or?
I think it was a producer that said that to me. Great guy.
Yeah.
But his advice was, you've got a good sound, stick with it, which is good advice. But I don't really know what sound that even is. As a musician, it's so difficult to articulate your own sound and put a label on it. And
find your voice or find your sort of style. But I guess with you mentioning about collaborating with people hopefully next year, maybe that might help with that, and it might sort of, you can sort of dip a toe with maybe into her world and she can with yours maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd like to broaden my horizons.
And going back to, obviously you played like quite substantially a lot of gigs in a short space of time. What would you attribute sort of your success, or the fact that you've managed to be sort of playing quite sort of prestigious gigs, sort of like in like the Cavern and places like that?
Networking and establishing myself in the music scene. When you're first starting out, it can be really difficult to get your foot in the door and get your first gig. I remember getting my first gig and being sick with nerves and thinking it was the biggest deal in the world. But now that I've played so many of these local gigs, it's kind of just, oh, it's another day. And that saddens me in a way, because it should always be a big deal. But I think it's a kind of good indication that I'm ready to move on
to the next stage.
But yeah, definitely, I would say the reason why I get so many gigs is because I go out, I talk to people, I post on social media a lot, and as you know, social media is an absolute catalyst for networking. And when people see me and they kind of have me as a mutual, I mean, I got this interview today through that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, just put yourself out there. Don't hide your face. And it's almost, it can come off as very narcissistic, because you've got to plaster your face everywhere, and a lot of people probably think I'm up my own a bit, but you've got to be.
It's a bit of a balancing act, I guess, because in the same time you don't want to come across as arrogant, but then at the same time is that it's not like it was, say, like 20-30 years ago, where the music would sell itself, or that like people would listen to you on maybe like local radio or things like that. So you've got to be out there, and I guess it's difficult to sort of marry the two together without coming across maybe a bit
arrogant. Yeah, you've got to champion yourself. You've got to have an unshakable belief in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then how would you expect a record label or anyone else to believe in you?
So, Sophie, with you playing quite a wide variety of different venues and gigs around Liverpool, is there any sort of moments or particular gigs that really stand out to you?
Yes, I think playing the Cavern was definitely a highlight, because that's something that very few local musicians have the opportunity to do. It's very hard to get a gig in the Cavern. I got it through a friend who kind of said, oh, get her and she's good.
So the sort of networking angle.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it all comes down to networking. And that was just such an amazing opportunity, and I got my nan and my mum to come, and all my friends came, which
So it was a bit of a family event.
it was nice. Yeah, it's always nice when family come to the gigs, because when you've been playing for a while, sometimes it gets to a point where they can't come to everyone. But
Yeah.
it's nice that I felt very supported, and yeah, you can look at the pictures from that gig, and I was smiling the whole time. Literally, I was so happy.
Do you ever feel a little bit of extra added pressure because the family are there rather than just maybe people who haven't seen you before, or did that sort of boost your confidence?
I'm not sure. I think I've never pinpointed what it is that gives me more or less comfort on stage, because sometimes I can be very confident and have amazing stage presence, and other times I can be very reclusive and introverted on stage. And I've not quite pinpointed what it is, because sometimes I can be very confident in front of loads of people. And I think it is. I think it's the less people, the less comfortable I am, because it feels like I'm playing to an empty room and I'm just like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah. I guess, yeah, it's quite difficult to sort of pinpoint at the moment. But I guess probably as time goes on, you might find it a bit easier to sort of, narrow in and hone in exactly what it is. And then as your shows sort of develop.
I'd like to get to a point where I'm having a consistently confident experience on stage no matter what the circumstances. But that's very much to do with personal growth rather than anything else.
And within the local scene, have you seen anything sort of change for the positive or negative that you liked or disliked? Or
I think there's a lot more awareness about fair payment than there used to be. It is still a big problem about bands not getting fairly paid on this local level that we're at, but there's a lot in the recent years. I've seen a lot more awareness and a lot more bands not being afraid to come out and say, I've been ripped off by these, don't work with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's good, because, then all the bands know not to work with them. So
fall under the same sort of pit traps.
A lot of people are scared to come out because they think that no one will side with them, or that they'll be kind of like blacklisted. But yeah, I've seen that a lot recently. It's more common for bands to just say, listen, I worked with these people, I didn't get paid, just,
Yeah.
It should be normal. You shouldn't be scared to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite terrible, really, when you put all that time and effort in, and obviously some venues or, sort of bars or restaurants or whatever are making a lot of money off the back of the bands. So it's only fair, really, that they should get paid their due. Just like if you're working in a shop or, a call centre or something, you wouldn't do it for free, would you? So
yeah, it's a bit of a controversy in Liverpool at the moment. There's a lot of... I'm actually starting my own promotions company called Madison Live Promotions, and we're putting our first gig on in December in the Cavern.
Oh.
But I've done a lot of research on this, and we learn a lot about it on my course in music business. But the problem is that a lot of people need to be paid, and a lot of people blame the promoters, and some promoters are to blame. But the problem is that some bands don't sell tickets, and then they don't get paid because they haven't sold a ticket. But the question of morality is, should that band get paid anyway, regardless, because of their time and service and effort on stage?
Yeah, it's not just up from what you kind of see on stage. You've played for, say, an hour or 2 hours or whatever. It's all the rehearsal space hiring, getting taxis to places, buying instruments or studio time, marketing, things like that people don't see.
Exactly. But sometimes if a band can't sell a ticket for whatever reason, or if they sell few, then they'll make a loss to play that gig because they couldn't do that. And that's kind of the thing in question. So to combat that, a lot of promoters and organisations have come up with a commission system where a band will, for example, get paid perhaps 20 to 30% of each ticket that they sell.
Yeah.
So customers will be asked on the door, who are you here to see? I'm here to see this band. Okay, and then they'll put a tick next, like a number next to that band's name. However many tickets that band has sold, they will only get 30% of that ticket price. So sometimes came out of a gig and the band altogether has been paid £8.
That's pretty shocking, that.
Sometimes I've been paid nothing. So I'm against the commission system.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows that. So I'm trying to come up with a system where I kind of have a flat fee, and if we don't sell enough tickets, then that's that. And then it kind of and also as a promoter, I plan to actually promote the event. A lot of promoters will just do an Instagram post and call it a day. That's not what promoting is. I plan to actually put money into advertising these things, making posters and making, content and whatnot, and actually putting real money into that. Which is something that promoters don't do, but still feel the need to not pay the bands for some reason. Even
it's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? And I guess with you being actually in bands as well, it must really help because you're actually seeing the other artists and saying, well, I guess you can have a bit more of a unique perspective and say, well, what aren't you happy about it, or what do you like? What do we need to do more from? So that's quite exciting to hear that sort of going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a brand new project, and I don't know if the business model that I have is going to work. I've starting it with my business partner, Elliot. He is doing it with me, but we've both talked about it because he's in Wild Affair with me, and we kind of said to each other, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we'll change it, but a flat fee sounds good, and then if we don't reach the point of sales, then we can kind of talk to the bands about it and say, listen, we've not sold enough tickets, we're still going to give you everything we have. And if that means that we don't make money, that's fine, because, as long as we get reimbursed for the money we've put into advertising and the bands get paid for their work, then, everyone's happy.
Everyone feels like they've got the due rather than they've either been ripped off or there's been some sort of shadiness kind of thing.
But the last thing I'll say on that is bands need to stop working with promoters with these commissions, because you are just letting yourself be taken advantage of. Unless you can actually sell like a lot of tickets, then there's no point in doing them. You're not going to be making any money. The only other reason I can think of why you'd want to do that is for exposure, which I don't think is a sustainable way to gig.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a cheap word. I've heard that quite often where people are like, oh, it'll be good for your exposure, but it's like, how much exposure do you need if you're still not, or if you've got a lot of exposure, well, why aren't you selling tickets?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, it's a bit of a murky world, but I'm glad that you've touched on that and that you've actually taken it upon yourself to think, well, this needs to change, so I'm actually going to try and implement something into the industry rather than just being like, oh, well, No, it's really good. And you're looking out also for maybe like younger musicians or maybe people that are new or coming up to the scene.
It's the younger musicians that are the most vulnerable to this, but it's us bands that set the standard. We cannot be taken advantage of if we set the standard and stop working with these people who are trying to rip you off. So stop working with these people that are trying to rip you off. Like, stop it. Just, you can put your own gigs on. It's not that hard,
So if people were looking to obviously connect with you either for that project or for your own music, where and how can they find you?
I am on Instagram at Sophie Ekins, spelled Sophie, Ekins. You can follow my band at Red Coven Band, and you can follow my other band at Wild Affair Official, I think. And I think that's all of my socials. Yeah.
And what's coming up next for you and your bands then? Is there anything on the horizon, any sort of future recordings or gigs that we need to look out for or listen out for?
I do have a single for Red Coven that I plan to release soon. We are in a bit of a hiatus at the moment as I try and get a band together again, but January should be the relaunch of Red Coven.
So 2025 is like the sort of launch point.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for your time, Sophie. It's been really insightful, not just talking about obviously how you've sort of created and where your sort of trajectory of your career is going, but also like the support that you give to other people is really shown, and it's really inspiring. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Now let's hand it over to Pete, who's chatting with Atinga, who's our first year film student.
Okay, our next guest is Atinga. Hi, Atinga.
Hiya.
Welcome. So you are a first year at SAE Liverpool. Tell us what course you're on.
Yeah.
What course are you doing?
Film production.
Film production, and how's it going so far?
Fine, not bad.
Good.
Yeah.
And what made you want to take up film production?
I have a film background. I did film production in the college, the City of Liverpool College, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wished to furthermore my film's experience because I have a YouTube channel, I have a podcast studio as well, and I used to cover music videos, and I used to do some video event coverage as well.
Sounds like you're busy.
Yeah, I'm extremely busy.
Yeah. So you're on a full-time film production course. You're doing podcasts.
Yeah.
You've got a YouTube channel.
I got 4 YouTube channels.
4 YouTube channels, and how are they going?
Huh? They are going well, not bad.
Yeah. What do you do on your YouTube channels?
I have a personal YouTube channel for drone footages.
Yeah.
I have one for documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is for my podcast, which is Atinga UK Podcast. And the 4th one is for general stuffs,
Okay.
both home and abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Because I got crew members back at home,
Yeah.
I used
Where's home?
Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah. So they used to create content, like street content, going to different universities, ask students questions and all of that.
Brilliant.
So I put it on that 4th YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I also have 2 TikToks accounts. So my first TikTok account is mainly for Atinga UK content.
Yeah.
And the other one is strictly drone content as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I also have 4 Instagram pages.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're everywhere.
Yeah. Every corner.
So how is it for a young man like yourself coming from Nigeria to Liverpool? How long have you been here, and how did you find it?
I'll be 5 years next year, February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think of Liverpool?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, very diverse.
Yeah.
I love Liverpool.
Do you like the people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've made quite a few friends. You've only been here a few months, but I've just seen you around, and you've made quite a few friends already here.
I've made a couple of friends, and some of them are into media as well. Some are into photography.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they are quite nice and helpful.
Brilliant. What do your friends and family back in Nigeria think of what you're doing?
They are very supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are encouraging me as well, because my dream is to go back home and set up a media company.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what does that look like to you?
It's a big dream,
Yeah.
but I believe I can achieve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
With the help of SA Institute.
Definitely, we'll help all we can. So you talked about your YouTube channel, the documentary one. What sort of documentaries have you made, and what are you the most proud of?
I used to go to different cities, different countries. I've been to several countries in Europe. So I used to go to the museum, and I used to go deep to the locals in order to ask questions about how their country is, what do they think about this and that. And before I traveled, I used to make my research on what I really need to focus on in a particular region.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What would you say to any prospective overseas students about coming to Liverpool or maybe coming to SAE? What advice would you give them?
My advice to anyone that is willing to come to SAE or Liverpool is to firstly understand their purpose of coming. That really matters. And what kind of course suits their personality. Because it's not all about just doing this course, doing that course. Because I realize that some people, they are doing the wrong course that does not even resonate with what they really want to do in life. And it's just more like wasting of 2 or 3 years of their life. So at this stage of our life, most of us are adults. And if you are above 20 years, so you should be able to know what direction you are facing in life. So that really matters.
So follow your passion.
Follow your passions. So work will be like a joke or,
Yeah. Have you collaborated with many people in Liverpool and in SAE with your creative projects?
Yeah, I've collaborated with so many people. I have a group a content creators groups where we used to talk about traveling to different country, different city. Last month I was in Amsterdam. I went with a content creator like myself, and I've been to Montenegro, I've been to Portugal, I've been to several European countries with content creators. And likewise, here in Liverpool as well, I've collaborated with so many content creators, such as Young Zonji. So we used to do a lot of content creators, and we used to do street interview as well, mostly during summer.
Yeah.
Whereby we go out on the street of Liverpool, asking people about their opinion towards what is going on around the world.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us today, Tinga. Good luck with the future. Really hope it all works out for you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome and back to the Slam. Today on this episode, we've got our very special guest, Kiyomi Cherry.
Hello.
Hi, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And I just wanted to ask you straight away, what sparked your initial interest in music, and how has your style evolved over the current period?
I would say like I come from like family of music, so my mom inspired me when I was like 9. She was like in performing arts, so she did acting before doing accountants. So I was like, I want to do that, but obviously I had like a huge stage fright.
Yeah.
So, but I would say like that really pushed me to get into music.
And how would you sort of say your sort of sound or style maybe sort of evolved from when you first started with music to now?
I would say I started off like with musical theater, and then like I moved on to like pop, R&B and stuff. So I feel like I'm still in that range, but I would say I'm more like a pop artist than R&B.
Yeah, but you're just sort of exploring, sort of
Yeah.
see what sort of fits and feels right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just picking up on what you just said there about sort of having sort of stage fright, was there any sort of skills that you might be able to give to other people or advice of how to overcome it maybe, or?
I would say just push yourself, like make sure you have like the right people next to you, like, you know, in the crowd. So that way like you're focused on them, and that would help you a lot because it feels like you're singing by yourself in your own room, like having the people around you, like, you know, who care about you and all that. So that really helps.
Yeah, definitely. And is there anyone or any group of people maybe that have helped sort of support you and get you where you are today?
I would say obviously my close friends and my best mate who is in a band called Keyside. And yeah, that really helped a lot to like, you know, push me like to keep doing music.
And is that something you sort of look to sort of cultivate? Is it sort of going forward or?
Oh, absolutely. Like at the moment, I'm working on like secret projects that I can't talk about right now, but that is really like, you know, helped me a lot. Like keep moving forward and not stopping. Just keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of wondering, were there any particular sort of pivotal moments in your journey that you sort of realised it sort of really turned you on to music? And I know obviously with you being sort of game art student as well, how that sort of like mixed in with your music at all or stage performances?
That's a very good question. I would say as a game art student, like we don't get to like, you know, be around like sound engineer and stuff. But sometimes like when I'm writing songs, I also think about like my game that I'm doing to like base it around that. Like at the moment we're working on an Egyptian game, and me and my close friend decided like to write a song about it. So hopefully it'll be played in the game, and we'll see like how well like, you know, having the game side and music side like put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned obviously about Egypt, does that sort of filter into the music at all? Sort of like the sort of cultures or styles of other countries, or?
Oh, absolutely. Because we have obviously some characters from Africa, like Ukraine. So like just mixing them all around, and obviously the main one's Egypt. So yeah.
And with sort of mixing with other people, have you found that sort of has enriched your music at all, or is it sort of steered you in a different direction?
Oh yes, absolutely. Like for example, mixing with other people. There's this classmate of mine called Brandon. He's known as Monarch on Instagram. He's from the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
And we've done a few songs together, and mixing that kind of like genre that he does, sort of rap, and with my like pop side, it kind of like, it's a good thing. Like you get to know what other people are, you know, feeling in the moment, like what kind of like music genre and stuff they have, and putting in like their creativity with yours helps a lot.
Yeah. And how have you found sort of, are you the type of artist that just focus purely on music, or do you add sort of elements of sort of like content creation? Or?
Sometimes I do sort of content creation because I started off as a VTuber and then I moved on to music. So it's kind of like a mix and match of like different possibilities that come along the way. Yeah.
And do you find that hard? Because I know what a lot of sort of artists have said over the last couple of years, sort of the pressure to sort of put out sort of visual or video content, and then the music sort of becomes a bit of a sideline, or they feel the pressure to sort of do that. Have you felt any of that? Or?
Oh, most certainly. Because I remember when I dropped my first song, this was when I was on a record label, it felt like, oh yeah, I'm going to make it big. But then afterwards, I started to notice the downsides of being like in an industry. And it just felt like this wasn't me. So like I decided to go like independent. And that really like helped a lot, because then you get to like experience your own creativity rather than having other people dictate what you do.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. I guess it's hard to sort of manage the two, and sort of you still want to be creative, but at the same time you don't want to sort of absorb all your energy into that, because then the music sort of, not allowed to sort of shine as much.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And would you give any advice to any sort of up and coming sort of students that are in a similar position, maybe? Or
I would say, like, don't let other people tell you that you're not good enough, or like if you want to get your music out there, like start slow. Like, kind of like my favorite saying would be like, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, you start from the ground and then you start building it up. Get yourself out there, go to gigs, do like charity work, and get your name out there.
Yeah.
And most importantly, do basking in Liverpool. Everyone likes that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting look where you mentioned about the busking,
Yeah.
because obviously there's quite a sort of like plethora of different sort of bars and venues you can play. So going down the sort of busking side,
Yeah.
how did you find that compared to playing regular gigs?
I would say when I did a lot of busking, because during the summer, like, you have like tourists from different worlds, like they are like interested in you, like they ask you questions and stuff, like they get your socials and all that, and like they're like, oh, can you do this song, can you play that song? So like engaging with them kind of also like inspires you to like, reach like to the right audience and stuff like that. Yeah.
I guess because it's completely different from being at a gig, because with them being there, they're either paying to be there or they know who you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you find that as a real challenge to sort of draw people in, because they're just literally passing and they're going somewhere else, to sort of hold their attention? Or
sometimes it's really hard to get their attention because like you have like different places, like different locations with different baskers. But if you get like the right song that everyone likes, for example, like I remember when I did my first time basking, it was Valerie, and a lot of people are just dancing and like, oh my god, that's my favorite song, can you please do it again? And that kind of like inspired me like to keep that range of music that got everyone's attention. So yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, the way you've sort of made that little connection there. And I guess obviously like Valerie connected it obviously with the Zootons quite heavily.
Absolutely.
I was just also wondering sort of how you bridge that gap between sort of going from like busking and maybe playing like sort of open mic night to playing like your own shows.
Oh, that's a tough one. Like, playing my own shows at the moment is been put on hold because I'm still like, getting music out, like, reach like an album point. So like I know like if I'm gonna do this gig, I have like the right amount of music. So like no one's like, oh my god, she's boring, this and that. And I feel like playing open mics, that kind of like helped me a lot with like my stage fright, because sometimes I do feel like frightened. I'm like there's like a big audience. But I feel like getting to stuff from basking, open mic, and doing your own shows is like a big jump from like, childhood and then teenagehood and then adulthood kind of feeling. So yeah.
And what would you say is your most memorable moment, whether it be busking or playing your own shows? Or
Ooh, I would say, oh my god, I have so many. But I would say when my second single came out, Monsters, that was like one of my favorite moments ever, because everyone was like looking forward to it. And I was like, I'm not ready for this song to be out. Like, I don't like it. But the moment it came out, it got like good positivity. So I feel like that was like one of my greatest moments and achievements.
Yeah, definitely. I guess a lot of artists probably are in the same sort of mindset of thinking that they want it to be perfect, they want it to be just right, and it is sort of yours. But then when you do release it out there, it sort of stops becoming, it becomes everybody else's sort of song.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with you obviously playing with different people, is there anyone that you would sort of desire to sort of collaborate with in the future? Or
Yeah, Quayside. I did some covers with the lead singer, Danny, and we're currently working on a project together. So just keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, sounds exciting. And how is it that people sort of would go about finding you online?
I would say like my Instagram and TikTok, which is official Kiyomi with 3 eyes. So official_Kiyomi with 3 eyes, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And are there any sort of particular personal or funny stories that you could sort of mention about that you've experienced over the last time as you've been a creator? Or
yeah, I think I told this one to Alex. It was when I was in like high school. And I feel like that kind of like brought me out of my shell, because like I was the quiet kid in school, and embarrassed myself in front of the whole school, and that kind of like in a way showed me that even if like you fall, you can still like get up and become the better version of yourself, and the past does not like define you at all. So like just
it
keeps
kind
you growing.
of sort of molds you in a way. It's sort of
Yeah,
like it shaped you,
basically.
sort of built your confidence in that way.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I was also wondering, obviously, with you coming from Italy as well, how much sort of influence that has, and what is the sort of music culture like compared between here in Liverpool and say back home?
I would say like back home in Italy, like it's mostly like classical music, like Andrea Bocelli, like sort of music. And then when you move here, it's more like pop music, and it's kind of like a different kind of vibe, because when you go back to Italy, it's mostly like opera, and it's kind of like subtle, calming, and then here it's more like, oh, I rock and stuff like that, metal kind of music, but it's different from Italy. Yeah.
And do you find was it a real challenge when you first sort of?
Oh, absolutely, because I grew up with classical music, and I was like, oh, I want to make music like this, which kind of like when I was 16, I got my first violin, and I was like, I'm going to be an opera singer and just, be part of people playing instruments. And then when I moved here, I was like, oh, that is not my style.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick to like, being on stage and just singing my heart out. Yeah.
It's really cool though, the way you've sort of pivoted, the way you had that in the mindset, and then do you think it was it more the culture of the people, or was it just something that you decided wasn't really for you as you grew up? Or
I would say both, but mostly culture wise. I feel like moving here kind of like brought me out of my shell in a way.
Yeah.
Because I was mostly like reserved, and looking back to now, I would say like I'm more like extroverted, but still introverted at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it's sort of like balancing out the two, isn't it?
Yes.
But I'm kind of glad though that Liverpool's allowed you to sort of do that, and it hasn't sort of, blocked you off in any way, or you felt sort of restricted.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because I do think it's kind of one of those cities that sort of allows people to sort of like broaden the horizons a little bit, and I like the fact that there's different sort of cultures and people coming from different countries, and I think that kind of feeds back into the sort of local scene rather than just being it's like, oh, we're doing this or we're doing that kind of music.
Yeah.
And going forward, I think it'd be really good to sort of see more artists sort of collaborating, mixing together.
Yes, absolutely.
And would you have a desire to sort of maybe bring a bit of that back to Italy, maybe, or?
Oh yes, oh absolutely. Like I was supposed to go back home to play at a gig, but then obviously COVID happened, so I didn't get the chance to perform there. But I'm hoping that this summer I would definitely do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be exciting to see sort of like a collaboration, or sort of like maybe local artists come from Italy and vice versa.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
What advice would you give to maybe other university students in a similar situation, or any emerging artists sort of trying to break into the music world?
I would say talk to people. Like, I remember when I first came to SE, I was scared to speak to audio students, because one of my mates was like, oh, the audio students are there, like if you ever need to record something. And we had the Jacaranda meetup, and I spoke to Savio for the first time. And then when I met him in uni, I was like, oh no, I'm scared to talk to him. But then I just went out my comfort zone, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna swallow the pill and talk to him. And that's how I got to know the audio students and the film students.
Yeah, no, that's really nice, the way it's sort of, you've managed to sort of bridge out there rather than sort of just saying, well, I'll just stay in my own lane.
Exactly, yeah.
And then obviously you've had that sort of positive reception. And it's really good to hear that, and especially also sort of mixing with different students, because obviously Savio is quite sort of active within the sort of music scene, so it's good that you've had that sort of person to sort of balance it out with.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And do you plan to sort of maybe collaborate more with him, or do any more sort of recordings?
Yes, so we have a few things that we're planning to do, so can't talk about it, but we are working on most stuff, and I'm also hoping to work with the film students, because I'm writing a script for a film. So yeah, hoping to work with everyone basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to hear. Obviously that you're able to sort of broaden your horizons and sort of mix with other people.
Yeah.
And would you be looking to maybe bring any sort of game animation or art into maybe future live shows? Or?
Oh, absolutely. One of my base mate, who's not here at the moment, we're currently writing a book and hoping to make it into a game as well.
Yeah.
And also hoping to make it an animated series and collaborate with the music students and film students and just put it together.
Wow, that's quite a lot of different moving parts, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how are you finding sort of balancing all that sort of creativity without not becoming overloaded with it or burnt out?
Obviously, being in my last year, like second year, me and him are planning to do an indie company together.
Yeah.
So like putting the things that we've learned in SAE and just putting all together with our own like personal development, and I think that would be like a great experience.
No, it will be. Sounds a lot. You've got a lot going on. So going forward, Naomi, what are your sort of maybe hopes or aspirations with your career?
I would say like going forward, like I hope like, you know, to perform in front of like a lot of people and like, you know, just get my music out there, like be able to speak with a lot of audience and like, you know, become a voice for people who are like, you know, have stage fright and are scared, like to get their music out and just be like a push to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, just collaborate with people because you never know who you're going to meet along the way.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good thing to sort of end on, just sort of the collaboration of everyone and your personal experiences.
Absolutely.
Just as a final sort of thing, what advice would you give for someone who is completely stage fright ridden? They're just stuck in the room, but they can create, but they want to sort of come out and they want to sort of unleash their creativity.
I would say like the first thing you're going to do is take a deep breath and record your first song. Don't show it to anyone, but watch it over and over. Perform it in your room until you feel confident to have at least one person in the room with you. And if you're confident enough, get out there, perform with them, do a duet with this person who was with you. And then little by little, you notice like your stage fright is slowly stopping, and then go into big stages and everything will be fine.
So just take it step by step and don't rush it.
Exactly.
And just as a final note then, have you got any singles or plans to come out with an EP or anything? Or
Yes, my single Double Trouble is coming out this Saturday on the 16th, so keep an eye out for that.
And where can people find that?
On Spotify, YouTube, every streaming platform, but mostly Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your time, Naomi. It's been great chatting to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of the Slam Media Podcast.
And we really do appreciate all your support, and we've loved chatting to everyone and hearing all about their discussions.
And we'll see you next time for more of our industry tales. So thank you very much.
See you later.